What's up, everybody? This is Patrick once again from wpbuilderhelper, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about caching plugins. So it's one of the most debated topics in WordPress, and I just wrote an article on this about the fastest cache, but it just so happens everything's fallen in place. I've got other articles that actually talk about why WordPress needs a cache. There's a couple different reasons, but it mainly stems from the fact that WordPress is pulling data from all over the place, and so that's part of why it needs a cache. Well, in this article, we go over, what is a cache and what do you need and why do you need it. But the funniest thing was I tested about four different plugins, and it was Swift Performance, WP Rocket, W3 Total Cache, and Auto Optimize. Can't say that very fast. The point being that I wanted to see what the difference was with these plugins was out of the box. Now, some of you are going to say, well, out of the box, that doesn't test anything, but it does. If a plugin requires very little in order to be customized or configured, then it makes it simpler for more of those people who are taken in there. They're trying to find a solution that isn't very hard to configure. You just take and you stick it on your website, and boom, your website's instantly going faster. Now, I know almost all of these can be tweaked, and they have that option. And there's even more on the WordPress repository. There's a ton more that I skipped here that people probably are going to say, you're crazy, you missed this, and this, and this. I didn't want to go through each and every speed plugin, but needless to say, I think I found the winner pretty quickly. It didn't take very long for me to determine which one I thought was the best for me and which one just worked better than anything. So anyway, without further ado, we'll take and start going through the stats, and I'll start talking through it and explaining what I'm talking about. So I ran tests with just GT metrics and Google Page Speed Insights, which are the two tests that I think are probably the most popular test. I don't think a lot of people think that Pingdom is that good, even though I enjoy it. I think that it's pretty cool. This was the results I got from the test, and as you can see, Swift Performance was basically the best winner out of the box. You're talking about, and really these stats, let me tell everybody, I've said this before and I'll say it again, these stats are what they call vanity stats. They don't really matter in the long run. None of this matters. The Y slow and the page speed, the letter grade and the percentage don't matter. What matters is your load time, your request, and your page size. Mainly your load time, if you can help it. You could have a bigger page size, but if you can get that puppy down to less than a second, then you're doing really well, even though it seems that page size kind of correlates to how fast a website loads and how many requests it has and everything like that. But out of the box, Swift Performance won that test. It made my website load 2.7 seconds, and the page size was really small, 540 KB with only 15 requests. It managed to shrink the request by that much. WP Rocket definitely came in second best with only a 0.3 second behind Swift requests, and I have no doubt if this was customized, these could be flipped, most possibly. But it did have higher request numbers and it had higher page speed numbers, which I thought was interesting. W3 Total Cache had had a pretty medium-sized load time. Once again, not optimized, nothing. I didn't do anything to it out of the box, but it had a longer load time, so it's almost like a full second and a couple of seconds, milliseconds behind Swift. The page size was also smaller than WP Rocket, but yet WP Rocket loaded faster. That's what I was talking about earlier. You can have a pretty big page size, and if you've got a decent caching plugin like WP Rocket or Swift, you're going to knock it out of the park. It also loaded the most amount of requests, which I thought was interesting, and then Auto Optimize loaded the longest with 5.2 seconds and 795 KB with 29 requests. And then if we go down to Google PageSpeed Insights, you'll see that Swift performed at 100% with desktop. It performed at 83 with mobile. WP Rocket 50, 98, 50, 83, 52, 77. So here's one thing about all these speed tests. One thing that's important. A lot of people consider Google PageSpeed test to be one of the most important because Google's the one that ranks your sites. And as a matter of fact, even with those type of scores, which I don't consider, this is pretty slow for a website. It really is. My website should load way faster than this, but unfortunately, a lot of that has to do with the type of hosting that I'm on, and I have not yet renewed my hosting to get a better host. I'm currently in the process of that, so I'm about to upgrade my host to a better host, but for right now, I'm on a much slower host. That can make a difference. You can save probably like a total second of time off of that. But getting that website to load really fast is part of it. If you can get that under a second, you're doing very good. If you can get it to a second, 1 to 2 seconds, you're doing really, really good. So that's where you want to take and you want to get to. But if we go into my Google Search Console, you can see that Google is considering many of my pages as actually slow, and the desktop is actually moderate. And when you go and you look at what they require from you, you see that in order on mobile for it to be considered fast, it has to be, let's see, I think it tells you in here that it has to be, yep, under a second. And it's got to have, yeah, basically under a second. If you can get it under a second, you're good. Under 3 seconds is considered moderate, and over 3 seconds is considered slow. And the problem with this is depending on where someone pings you in the world, you can get different page speeds. So for instance, if we go to Pingdom, let's go to Pingdom. I had opened this up just to show you. If we go to Pingdom and we take and we type in, let's type in, I've already got it in here, and let's go with Europe, Germany. You're going to see my website loads incredibly slow probably from Germany. That's mainly because it's targeted for US traffic, but I do get some I get some people from Germany, I get some people from the UK, I get some people from Australia. I get some people from all over the place, but the main part of the site is kind of targeted more towards the US because I don't have a lot of things in there. And actually, to my surprise, it loaded faster than I would have thought. This is even showing a better request time than I would have thought. It's got a pretty big page size in Germany, which is kind of interesting to see the difference when I'm looking at, 540. I'm wondering what ballooned up that caused it to do that. But still, the load time's 1.49 seconds in 24 requests. That is really good. That could be because of the servers, and maybe they have servers that are over there that are serving it. Could be a lot of different things that cause that. But let's look at somewhere in America and see what my score is. So remember, it was 1.49 seconds. That's the thing that you want to look at the most. That 1.49 seconds in your request. Those are the things that you kind of go over when you're going through a website to see where your downfall is or what's causing it to take and fall down or anything like that. So on here, it's showing 5.77 milliseconds and 20 requests. I'm not sure I believe that, but it looks like the picture probably they had some lazy loading result. This is probably why you see this type of thing. You can't necessarily go by these results, but it is interesting that it's faster over here. So sometimes you'll get faster, sometimes you'll get slower. It all depends, but this is what you're looking for. Do not focus on the grade ever. It's not worth it. But I wanted to take you through, and I wanted to kind of show you that, even though I'm ranking for this, my page speeds on, on the speed experimental tab of Google Search Console is showing the site is actually slow, and it's actually showing the mobile is slow. Now, some people will say, hey, It even says in there that it's experimental. I get it. I totally get it, and I agree with you. But it doesn't change the fact that Google's looking at this and saying there's something wrong with this page. So you need to be aware of that, and don't take so much in and think that, you know, a page speed, it's a page speed. It's not there for you to take and analyze all day long. Like, let's look at Elementor. Let's see what Elementor ranks for their main page. So Elementor is one of the most popular plugins that's on the web right now. But let's look. So it's 14 jobs ahead. We'll take and we'll queue that up. As a matter of fact, let's queue up Elementor with this also. So let's look up Elementor and see what we got here. So this is going to be coming up. It's going to be popping up shortly, and the purpose is just to show you, like, Elementor is a big giant company. They've got a lot of people working on their site. They're doing a lot of things, but sometimes you're going to find that these sites are probably not as well optimized as you would have thought. And when you're comparing it to your site, you need to look at the differences between them, because it's amazing to think that these sites are not optimized, but sometimes they're not. And so in this case, we go to Elementor and boom, there you go. Wow. Not what I expected at all. A load time of 7.1 seconds and a total page size of 2 megabytes. Wow. That is a big page. And 89 requests. That is insane. If we look at the waterfall graph, you can just see that Elementor is just loading a ton of stuff in the background. Wow, that's weird. I wonder if they have caching on their actual server. That is weird. How does it, wow, that's how it loads on mobile. So, and this is not to put down Elementor. Elementor does a fantastic job. That is not what this is for. This is to show you that you can kind of check this against things and see where things fall on the scale. So this is just an example. I mean, they've got a successful page. Elementor is by far one of the more successful companies out there, and their page load speed is like 7.1 seconds. They're not worried about that crap. So if they're not worried about it, you probably shouldn't worry about it either, but you do need to be aware of it. You need to be aware that there are times where this score is not going to do anything for you. It may not help you even with Google speed. You know what I mean? Like, it's a vanity metric. It's there so that you can figure out what is going wrong. And sometimes it's important that you look through this, because sometimes if you're looking through, like, let's say if you're looking through trying to figure out the server. So usually the first two things on here are your server, meaning where it's hosted. You'll notice that where it's hosted, it's really not running into very many problems. The host is fast. They're on a fast host. The problem is that they've got a lot of caching that they could be doing on this page, and it could be ranking much, much better than this. Like, much, much better. It could be loading way, way faster. But it doesn't, and they don't need it to, because it does what it needs to do. So once again, that just goes to show you, this is all, I mean, to some extent, take it with a grain of salt. Don't get obsessed over these statistics. Look at them and go with them, and then use a caching plugin. If I were you, these two for the money, Swift Performance and WP Rocket, are the best for me. Like, hands down. I've owned both of them. I have paid for Swift and I've paid for WP Rocket, and I've tried both of them. And both of them are really good caching plugins. I've never tried to pay for a premium caching plugin with either of these two, but for these, it's a knockout of the park. And this was actually running on their free version. So I just want to point that out. Their free version did that. Do you hear me? The free version did that. So in case you don't know, this is worth, I have a lifetime version of the Pro membership. This is worth paying for. Very much so. I enjoy Swift Performance a lot. So anyway, guys, that's all this was about. This wasn't to take and like downplay anything. I know a lot of people on the forums, they on, you know, Facebook forums and everything get obsessed over their speed, and they're trying to get it down, and they're trying to figure out where things are and where they stand and how to get better optimized. I get it. I'm right there with you. Sometimes, though, it's better to ignore the results and just try and manage the things that you can manage. Stop. If you can't manage your server, or you're not at a place where you can renew, then obviously there's nothing you can do about it. If you picked a bad host, those type of things. And like I said, I've got blog posts on this all day long talking about this and talking about what is a bad host, what is a good host, what do they look like, what you need to decide on, those type of things. So don't get obsessed over it. And like I said, if Elementor can do it, you can too. Okay? So go out there and do what you need to do, and don't obsess over letter grades or anything like that. Focus on your load time. Try and get your load time down. That's what you need to focus on to make your website better. And also probably making your page size a little bit smaller. That's a pretty big page, but I have no doubt they've got a lot of stuff on there. Anyway, thanks for taking and going over with this with me. I appreciate your time. I look forward to seeing you in the future, and see you guys next time.